Everybody that's tuning in, welcome to Lapeef. Let's talk. We appreciate you guys joining in. So, Juan, I want to ask you a question. How important is protecting your peace?
I mean, that
Turn that down a
entire
little bit.
statement is problematic for me. Like, I understand why people feel like they need to say that they need to protect their peace because some people are, introverted and they just want to be alone and they need to, get that alone time so they can rejuvenate. I'm an extrovert, so I need to be around people and I need to hear, other people and and relate to other people in order to get rejuvenated. So I've never really felt like I have to run away to protect my peace. I can protect my peace in any situation. Like when people are being crazy and attacking me, like I can protect my peace. I know exactly what I need to do to keep myself sane in that instant. If that means I need to defend myself or that means I need to retract, I do what I need to do to protect my peace. So like I don't really understand, what you mean by protecting your peace. Does that mean, you don't have to face people? You need to be alone in order to get through whatever you need to get through. Maybe that's necessary for some people. Yeah, I don't know.
Be next. How important to you is it to protecting your peace?
It's my everything, But the thing is, this isn't something that just kind of happened. I think that I really I had to get to a point where I had to understand who am I? What do I represent and what I like and what I don't like? And if anything, this made me have to change my behavior, not my behavior, my habits, changing my habits and my circle. My grandfather used to always joke that you could count all your friends really on one hand. That seems more true as not necessarily with age, but as I mature as a person, that I find value in peace and really I find value in doing activities that really is just for me. I think in the past, and we all may have been victim of this, where we thought that finding our peace was by supporting others, helping them find their peace or be able to support them. But actually it caused more drama, more turmoil, and really the aspect of feeling frustrated on the verge of being burned out. So for me, it's about finding out who I am and what I represent. Two, making sure whatever my surroundings are, that it reflects what I represent. A lot of times you don't find peace when your environment doesn't reflect what you're about. You're surrounding yourself around family and friends or people, associates that really aren't rocking the same way you are. So it becomes this conflict. So I think being able to kind of fully understand like what I enjoy and what I define as peace and what I found happiness in, that gives me peace. But I have to lead that. I can't allow someone else to provide it for me. It has to be dictated by me and led by me.
All right, Anton. How important is protecting your peace?
I think it's important. I think that one thing that people may not understand is that protecting your peace may not necessarily mean that it's not going to be trouble or it's not going to be some noise or it's not going to be some hard work or anything like that. But what it means is that you're not necessarily on edge. You're not worried. You don't have to necessarily be upset or anything like that as it relates to anything that's happening in your life. Because again, we got to go out and work. You got to interact with people. You have to participate in life. You see what I'm saying? So the whole idea becomes, what is it that you're taking in and how is it affecting you on a daily basis? I know a lot of people that take in too much social media, literally addicted. I that lose sleep or can't, or if they wake up in the middle of the night, the first thing they do is they grab their phone. I know people that are easily offended and affected by specific people when they say things that rub them the wrong way. I know people that surround themselves with the wrong crowd. And so what happens is when you surround yourself with the wrong people or comrades or people that you would call friends, and they're not actually adding value to your life, or you're always the only strong friend, then that becomes an issue. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's incredibly important. but I think it's also important for people to understand exactly what that means to protect your peace. To protect your peace is to absolutely put yourself in the best position possible to not only be mentally stable, but to also operate on a daily basis as the best version of you. I think my daughter, for example, deserves every single day to have the best version of her father. And I can't give that to her if I'm not mentally stable. I can't give that to her if I'm always coming in on edge, or everything that affects me outside of my household is I'm bringing that back into the house. So it's important not only for me, but it's also important for the people that I surround myself with and the people that depend on me. So yeah, I think it's absolutely important.
All right, for me, I think protecting the peace is much needed. I don't understand it initially. I think it took me to understand the value of what peace is. But once I learned what peace is to me, I just try to keep myself out of certain situations. I have a certain process on how I break down. Everybody's process is different on when they're trying to maintain that peace, or when they are trying to seek peace if a situation has arisen. So I think that peace is, to me, is very important. I think that everybody needs to find that place of peace if they don't have it already. It's to be in. The next question that I wanted to ask you guys was to define negative energy. Negative energy. Be next.
Drama,
What
pettiness.
does it do? How does it make you feel?
Asking for stuff, worrisome, nervous energy, transference of negative energy, all of that. Because that's one thing we don't factor in. It may not even be you, but there's an aspect of transference. It's almost like, when someone is really nervous, and then because they're nervous, you start getting like freaking out and getting nervous. It's the same thing when somebody always is operating in a negative space. If that's part of your circle, you become part of that negative space. So, I mean, those are the aspects that really, like, they're distractions. So the thing is, I'm trying to remove distractions from my world. In order for me to get to that level of peace, I got to eliminate the drama. I got to eliminate the distractions. That's including at work, at home, family, friends, clubs, all type of situations that put me in a different space that robs me of my peace.
But let me ask you a question, B Nix.
I'll go ahead,
And
bro.
I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I want you to elaborate on something that you mentioned. Do you think that, because you said you're eliminating distractions, and for me, I'm very literal. So I interpreted that as, for example, you may have to eliminate some people out of your life that you don't feel like is good for you. Is that an accurate statement?
I won't say necessarily the people, but the setting, I would say. So let's go to the club, right? Since I mentioned that earlier. Nothing against the club, but I think we all used to say we'd go to the club back-to-back nights, or a whole weekend, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Then, the pregame before you go to the club, then after the club, then the after party, then all of that. But the thing is, that environment wasn't conducive for my peace, because the club represents something that doesn't reflect my beliefs right now. I'm not against it, but it's a lot of drama in the club. It's arguing in the club. It's people that's tipsy at the club that's acting out of character. So the thing is that we've seen it where we go there for good times and they end up going left and end up being drama, potential fight. Even if you weren't part of the fight, a drink get thrown on you, somebody step on your shoe, the negative space. So for me, it's not necessarily the person, because my family, my people, but I have eliminated the setting in which I'm able to engage with people. Like right now, the home is my sanctuary. In the past, I was never at the crib. I found peace by leaving the house, by going over a friend's house, going out to kick it, or just driving, just aimlessly, just finding something to get into. Right now, my peace I find at home, because now I've set up my home to be able to provide all the needs that I have.
You're
So the thing is, I changed my setting.
You're a better man than me.
What'd you say, bro?
I said you're a better man than me.
Hey,
I
man.
eliminate whole people. I eliminate entire groups. I complete. Bro,
No, I don't do that.
Very, like, I am very direct. My own brother, like, because I got 3 brothers, but one of them, he's not my brother. Like, I don't consider him family. You know what I'm saying? Because family for me is not defined by a bloodline. It's defined by people that, you know what I'm saying, that displays the characteristics that I would want to be around forever, and I wouldn't mind having my kid, you know what I'm saying, subjected to them in that space. So for me, you know what I'm saying, family is different than bloodline, and he's not family to me. Like, I don't even look at him as a person that should play any type of role in my life. So I'll cut off anybody that move a certain type of way that don't align with where I'm going, or the character, or the type of people that I'm rocking with. That's why I said you're a better person than me. You got a higher tolerance than I do. I'm off that, bro.
That's probably true, but I think for me, that's how I was able to pivot, by just really changing the environment, but still staying true to the. And the thing is, it's almost like if you really genuine, and to me, family is not just blood. Family is like squad. It's my ride or die, my day ones. But if you my ride or die, and you see that I'm on this journey, support me. And if you can't support me in this journey, then technically they're eliminating themselves. So really, they're removing themselves from me. And then that then shows that, you know what, hey, we all have different journeys, and your journey may have ended. This chapter, we may now be turned into a new chapter where we're not all reading the same book anymore.
I want to ask you the same question. Can you define negative energy?
You know what negative energy is to me? It's people who are just overly critical of every little thing you do, just overly critical. It comes across as jealousy. I don't like passive aggressive people. Because honestly, like, I'm not that kind of person where I'm going to pick up on passive aggressive cues. Like, you need to just kind of blatantly tell me whatever it is that's the problem. And so sometimes people have an issue with, you being direct, and then, being direct with you. It's just a lot of different reasons why overly critical people agitate me, because I just feel like they like bullies. I don't really mess with that. That energy is just like, it's too negative for me. And so I'm a little similar to Anton. Like, I will completely separate myself, and I really don't mind losing friends. I really don't care about being your friend if that's the type of person you are, period, anyway. So if I see that kind of energy, then I'm going to give it right back to you. And we're probably not going to be friends anyway, because you're not going to like my approach. But at the same time, I just don't have time for all of that type of, negative reinforcement communication. So I don't have that in my environment, in my home, in my life, so I won't tolerate it from outsiders.
I wonder though.
Oh, go ahead,
Anton. I know. I'm sorry. I seen JR was about to say something. Go ahead, JR. What were you about to say?
I'll go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I wonder though, do we also evaluate the role that we play in other people's lives? Like, are we the toxic ones? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times I see a lot of memes, I see a lot of posts, I see a lot of people that always say stuff about, my family, whatever, toxic, people toxic, whatever, so on and so forth. But I never see anybody really say, like, I need to get myself together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't ever see the posts reflect that, that level of problem could possibly stem from ourselves. And I think part of this thing is also doing a real deep self-check, and that we have to evaluate the role that we're playing in society also. One of my main goals in life is to leave this earth in a better space than it would have been had I not been here. So I'm always doing a self-check and evaluating what it was that I contributed to society today. Did I say something that was completely off base? Is it something that I could have did differently? Did I hurt somebody? And then I go about actually taking action and repairing it. I had conversations regularly with people that I apologize to and say, yo, you don't have to forgive me for this because I was wrong. This is what I'm doing differently. I'm taking accountability for that. And I'm moving in a different direction as it relates to this specific thing that I did wrong. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of times we talk about protecting our peace, But I'm just wondering if we've also taken in consideration how we disturbed other people's peace, if that is a factor in the equation also.
I want to ask you that. Go ahead.
Yeah, good
Next, my
point.
bad.
I had never thought about that. I may be toxic to somebody, you know. I don't know. That's I never looked at it from that lens.
I don't know. I do self-assessments all the time. And I feel like sometimes when I come to people, I apologize for things that I think that I did to offend them. And some people be like, no, that totally wasn't offensive. And I'm like, please, I open the door and tell people, like, please tell me if I hurt you. Because especially if they're important to me, and if there's someone that I value and I love, Chris will tell you, like, if I do something to offend him, or if I do something, I'll be like, can you please tell me, like, well, I want this to be an open door for you to be honest with me. So I think self-assessments are important, but also you cannot rely on people's opinion of you all the time, because people will steer you in the wrong direction, and people will, like, make you hate yourself. So sometimes you have to be confident in, you know what, my heart was good. I had the right intentions and I meant the right thing. And I wasn't, I'm not a malicious person. You cannot let people define you. And I'm telling you that is the worst thing you could possibly do, is allow any individual in this world to define who you are, and to make you feel like because of something you did, it changes their view and their mentality. No, that's not that to me. I'll never let anyone do that to me. But I do think self-assessments are important. We all need to self-assess. And if everyone around your circle is telling you something and it's all being the same thing, then maybe it's something you need to listen to, especially when it's people you value and you love, and you know that they're telling you this because they really care about you. But if it's people outside of your circle making a comment based on something that they partially saw, then why even give it energy? But I think that defining negative energy has nothing to do with how we assess ourselves on the other end. I mean, yes, it does, but I'm just saying, for the purpose of this question, you know, Jay, I just wanted to know what we defined it as, not necessarily how we address it or how we approach negative energy.
Hey, Anton, same question. What would you define negative energy to you?
Negative energy, hold on, before I even do this, I just, like, this is my positive energy. I got to show y'all my little baby. This is my daughter.
Hey.
She looks just like me.
Hey.
You look, see her outfit?
How you doing, Queen?
Beautiful.
But negative energy for me is very easily defined as people that do not add value to your life. And I know that that's like a very strong thing to say, and that, you know, because there's people that I use that as negative energy because I've always been negatively motivated. So the overwhelming majority of my life, I've done things just out of spite because somebody told me that I couldn't do it, right? So, like, for example, somebody told me I couldn't be successful at specific thing from a career perspective, and that was the thing that motivated me to push harder and work hard in order to acquire that thing. But then I realized that even though I became successful, I still had issues within myself that drove me to do things that didn't create that happy thing that I wanted. I went through so much pain to get this thing, and then on the other side of it, you know, I wasn't happy. I wasn't necessarily satisfied. It didn't feel the way that I thought it was going to feel when you got to the top or whatever. So being negatively motivated, it did push me to be successful in a lot of ways, but it didn't necessarily create a dynamic where I was happy with myself. So I define negative energy that broad as far as people that don't add value to my life, because it's not necessarily pushing me to growth. You see what I'm saying? So anything that pushes me to growth is positive energy. Anything that does not force me to grow or allows me to stay stagnant or does not force me to add more value to society or my life in person or other people's lives, for me is negative energy, because standing still is the same thing as going backwards for me.
It's quite interesting that you guys, when I asked you the question about negative energy, you guys kept saying people versus feeling. I mean, to me, negative energy is more of a feeling. People may cause it, but when I think of negative energy, I think it was feeling. So, based on what I heard, peace is important to everyone. You guys want energy. So the question that I had was, if peace is so important in avoiding the negative energy, is it an excuse for not having tough talks?
Oh, that's easy, but I'm not even going. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let y'all answer that first. That's
No,
very
you go
easy.
ahead. You never go
If
first.
if peace is important to you and you trying to avoid that negative energy, is that an excuse for not having the tough talks?
I don't think it should be based off of how you feel, because I think that sometimes the things that make you feel the worst is the things that you need to hear that propels you to be successful or pushes you forward to do it. You know what? When somebody told me, see, here I go sharing too much, but it's out there from the internet. Years ago, when somebody was telling me, because I was out, spending $40,000 at the casino on one night and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I can afford it. It just is what it is. And when somebody told me, like, Ty, you got a gambling problem, it made me feel a certain type of way. I didn't feel good, but it was actually a positive conversation that propelled me to start evaluating and looking at my life differently. So it's not based off of how you feel. And I don't even feel like peace, right? Peace within, but peace in general is not necessary in order for me to feel like, you know what I'm saying, that I'm not getting negative energy. So it's not about peace for me. And I've even had this conversation separately in which I say, I don't believe in chasing happiness. I believe in chasing growth. I think happiness is subjective. Peace is subjective. I've read Gandhi's autobiography. I've read the autobiography of several great prominent figures. And in the midst of the most tumultuous time within their lives, they found peace within themselves because they felt like they were really moving forward and doing the thing that they were meant to do. So I don't necessarily agree that peace is a necessary ingredient in order for you to feel like you don't have the negative energy. Negative energy is negative energy, but peace is not a component with that for me.
I see. I mean, Tawana, I'm sorry. See you shaking your head.
Tell
Disagree?
tell me the question again. I just want to make sure.
Okay, so basically, you guys, we asked a question about peace.
Mm-hmm.
I asked how important was peace to you, and you guys all agreed that peace wasn't important. And then I also, how do you feel about negative energy? Can you define it? Like, what is it? And you guys defined it in relation to mostly people. Anton, I heard you mention, you said that you like to be the best version of yourself when it came to your daughter. When I
Yeah.
asked the question about peace and so forth, but then when you began explaining just now, you said that you believe that you need to have negative energy, like you want to hear it. I'm just trying to break
So
that
what I'm
down.
saying is
So
negative energy and peace is not necessarily correlated. For example, I'll give you a perfect example. When I discipline my daughter, that's a very unpeaceable moment with both me and her. But it propels her to be the best version of herself because I'm teaching her a lesson. You see what I'm saying?
mhm.
So at the time, she may define it as negative energy because she don't have the level of understanding that I have, and that this is actually going to be a net positive for her in her lifetime. However, when she looked back on it, that was actually positive energy for her because I'm not letting her become the worst version of herself. I actually have the wherewithal to say, you know what, I have to do this thing that does not make us feel good. It's not necessarily a peaceable situation in order to produce the best net outcome for both her and me as her parent. You see what I'm saying? So it's not correlated as it relates to negative energy and peace. It's a matter of perspective. What some people define as negative energy is not negative in my mind, because some people feel like, pertaining to the last subject that we talked about, if somebody say that they overweight, they feel like that's negative energy towards them. That's not negative energy. It's just a matter of perspective and where you are and your level of maturity and how you look at life, because some people view that, I'm not for everybody, but some people view that as, yo, he said something positive to me, it changed my life, and now I'm on a different path. So it's just a matter of it's a matter of perspective.
Hey, B next, do you
If
agree
that
with
make any
Anton,
sense.
or do you feel like it's situational? Like, do you feel like what he's saying, does it apply to everyone, or do you think it's just based on the situation that's at hand?
I don't know. I don't know. Um,
I know I'm thinking like, well, I guess.
I'm still processing it just because
Well, like
the
I
tough
thought,
talks.
yeah, like I thought like another example real quick, and then you can go ahead and finish. So he gave the example about his child, and I can understand that she really don't really have a choice, and he's giving her, the positive outcome of it. But let's just take two adults, for example. Let's just say like a wife, a coworker, anybody. Somebody bring this negative energy to you. Your peace is important. Should you still proceed with that conversation, with that tough talk at that time? Or is it situational based on the person?
Well, I don't know, because because part of me, I feel that negative energy, right? To me, like let's say I'm talking about Anton, and I'm gonna use him as an example. It could be perceived that he gives me negative energy when we do these podcasts, right? Even though that's not necessarily the case, but the thing is, Anton, I mean, for the audience, he technically is a different person outside of. Well, no, he's not. He's the same. But I think the fact that we have an audience is received differently on his views versus when I chop it up with him one-on-one or in a smaller group outside of the podcast, even though his views may still be the same. So I think it's kind of situational because we talk about people being the owners of this negative energy that they spew. A lot of times that negative energy is still rooted in a particular setting, in which, they are negative or not, So the thing is, it's all kind of circumstantial. I want to say it's situational, but for me, I think conceptually, I look at it that if I have day one friends and I got my squad and folks that I consider family, I want to say that they're almost like my board of directors. So if I'm looking at this from a thought partnership approach, thought partnership says that you should have this board of directors of people, almost like treating my life as a business. That I got certain people that's able to say like, hey, you're losing money or you're doing this, or like Anton mentioned, you're gambling too much, all this. So the thing is, I want to feel those people that's part of my true squad is already innate and intuitive that we all are able to kind of hold each other accountable and police each other to say like, hey, you slacking. Like I actually had and my father's part of that board of directors. He called me last week talking about I'm comfortable. I disagreed with him, but he was like, hey, you're not doing no speaking engagement. You're not doing this. You got a job and you comfortable. But the thing is, maybe that's what I needed to hear. I disagree with him, but the thing is, he planted a seed, and he knows how to get to me by planting the seed. Because I'm gonna go back at him, but I'm gonna come back and think about it. Come back to him like a couple of months later, like, hey, I was thinking about what you were saying. So the thing is, for me, if you squad and if you family, then I feel that that's really a responsibility that we all have to our friends and family to be honest, to be genuine, and to be transparent. But because we're squad, we're able to get past the personal piece. We mentioned about criticism and taking things personal and internalizing it. I could say right now, as far as this, Anton, hey, you good people. So the thing is, it's coming from you. I take it for face value, but the thing is, I want to understand where you're coming from versus like, hey, I don't know, buddy, which is how I felt a couple of months ago. But the thing is, like right now, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take him for what he said because maybe he's trying to explain something to me, and either I'm not willing to receive it right now, or I need another example of what you're trying to articulate. So for me, it's situational, but overall, you shouldn't even. If these people are the people that's pulling you down and preventing you from your journey, they shouldn't even be in your corner anyway. Whether you disassociate with them or whether you create distance between them, you can't allow a human being, family, friend, blood, to prevent you from your journey. And if you do, I think that you got some own issues that you need to resolve. When we talked about doing this deep dive and self-reflection, that's something that you need to address, the fact that you stunt your journey by allowing other people to dictate what you should do. That's something that you got to be able to fix. But if you're not doing this self-reflection and this deep dive on self and really exercising this level of maturity, then you probably don't even know this is happening.
I guess for me, like I'm that person who tries to come at and address things right away and talk about stuff and like get it out there. And a lot of people around me are very opposite. They do not, and then they'll tell me like, I do not want to talk about this right now. Like I'm done. They'll completely shut down or they'll walk away. And I'm that kind of person where it's like, I want to, I want to talk about it. Like I want to get it out. Like let's talk about our feelings. And like, so I literally had to learn that, you have to consider other people and how they feel, and like not just because I want to get it out and I want to talk about it right then, like that's what just has to happen. So yeah, I don't think that just because it's a situation that I feel is very important and I think needs to be addressed right away, that it always needs to be addressed. The problem that I have with people is that they never want to talk about it. Like even when we've calmed down and like we have to still talk about it. We need to address it because it was an issue, whether you see it as an issue or not. Like I feel like it's an issue, and I'm talking about between my siblings. I'm talking about my family, friends that I've had. There's all these situations where I feel like, so yes, I do feel like some people, they just want to protect their peace and they don't feel like every conversation is necessary and they don't feel like we need to talk about everything. And I know a lot of happens in families a lot. People just ignore the issues and problems, and then they just kind of like push it to the back burner. And then these things, they just kind of like come out. And that's why sometimes it's like family events and there's fights and there's arguments and people disagree and people fall out. So I do think that there's a thin line. Like we need to learn how to address behaviors, address issues, but not disrupt people's peace while we're doing it, like respecting people. It's hard. That balance is hard because when I want to talk about something, I just want to talk about it right then and I need to get it out. But, you have to learn that that's not how everyone operates. So,
I don't know. I think you bring up a good point, Tawana, but I think it really, it's almost like understanding the personnel, like almost like work, but same thing with in life. We all got different ways in which we kind of take in information. I go back to Anton, like I will push back on Anton and disagree with him, but trust and believe I'm still thinking about it, right? Or just like I mentioned just now with this question, I'm like, I need to process this. So for me, I'll let you voice your opinion, but you may not get my opinion back at that very moment because I really got to sit down and sit with this for a minute. And I got to process it and think about it. And I have to go through this process in order for me to get the best response and answer or how to move forward. I think a lot of times people don't take time to reflect, and we do make knee-jerk reactions and decisions, and then it blows up, because the thing is, we have to know what's our strengths and weaknesses. Some people, like you said, Tawana, hey, I got to shoot my shot right now. Anton, you mentioned you're very literal. It's very black and white. For me, hey, I admit I like to dance in that gray area. I need to I got to chew on it a little bit. I got to think about it. I got to process it. I got to run it past a whole different group of people in order to get a different perspective and then come back to you and say like, Anton, I think you had a point 2 months ago when you was talking about wealth and investments and things like that. But I need time. And the thing is, I know for me, based on my friends, I frustrate people. And it's not intentional, but people assume it's very nonchalant or I don't care. It's like, no, right now I really don't have the answer. And it may seem like I don't really care. I'm just not ready to answer the question. But if I'm talking to Tawana, like you right now, you may say like, well, what do you have to say about this? Like,
I need to hear it right now.
Yeah, like, I don't know. And that's it.
Oh no, that's
you know
not
what? I was
true.
met with that resistance a lot.
I seen you the other day. You was go. You had all the smoke. I was cracking up.
But he's right though, because I feel like I was approaching people like, oh yeah, we need to talk about this right now. Because I think right now, and then they like, no, I don't want to talk. So then I'm looking at them like, oh, you don't care. And that's not the issue. And that could be toxic, right? Because them's like, dude, that's not even what it is. Like Brandon said, they need time to think about it. And it took
maybe that word is thrown around too loosely.
What'd you say?
Maybe that word is just used too loosely.
Like,
like being toxic. The word toxic.
No, that's toxic.
Well, it also makes it seem like shit is situational, right? We may think it's negative energy, but again, it may be situational based on the climate, what else been going on that day, the setting, whether it's a audience versus a one-on-one, whether we're doing this through social media or through Zoom versus in person. It's variables to it.
Well, see, the reason why I say I think that word is used too loosely is because I think that people use it to apply to anything that they don't necessarily agree with or like. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the things that I've been hearing a lot attached to the word toxic is toxic masculinity. And it's like, fam, like, where did that come from? You know what I'm saying? Like, masculinity is masculinity, femininity is femininity.
UrbanDictionary.com or something.
Toxic masculinity is like a feminist movement. It's a real word.
See what I'm
it's
saying?
Like a real word, and it's
just
really
thrown around, bro.
It's not. It's really. Yeah, let's not get into that. I'm just saying. What I meant by toxic is you can't badger somebody. Like me, I used to be like, "You gonna talk to me right now because I want to talk," and they like, and they resist it.
But I don't consider that toxic. I don't think that that's toxic. That's just a like it's a different. You just have a different speed in which you operate in, right? Right. So, like, for example, I'm able to separate. Like, it's people that I grew up with.
I was not being aggressive. Okay.
It's people that I grew up with that I don't kick it with anymore on a day-to-day basis. It don't mean that they're not cool. It means that we in two different places in our lives and we moving in two different directions. Just because we not kicking it and we growing in two different directions don't mean that we not growing. We just moving differently. And so I don't look at them as necessarily toxic for me or my life. I just say that we in different spaces. So whenever I disagree with somebody, it don't mean that they toxic just because they wrong in my mind, because I can come around a year from now and be like, man, I'm thinking differently. I got a different narrative or a different perspective about that. But I think that the word itself is used very loosely, and that it allows people to say whatever they want to say and attach it to anything that they don't like. I'm not feeling men right now, so men are toxic masculinity. Like, can't do that.
And that style of communication, when I learned how to effectively communicate, I recognized what's toxic and what's not. So, and I'm not using it loosely. I'm using it very specifically to define not respecting other people and how they feel about communicating. Like, I think that is toxic. And I do think that once you get older and you start to be in relationships and you communicate, and you realize that you cannot badger somebody until they answer you. You have to give people space and room.
I agree.
I agree.
To me,
I agree.
Toxic behavior. Now, everything, like you said, this whole toxic masculinity notion, which I totally disagree with, is also like this whole weird idea that, you know, this aggressive behavior is almost like expected from men, right? It's like, okay, we expect men to be aggressive. We expect men to be over sexual. We expect men to do all this crazy stuff. And so when you're not that way, you're not masculine. So,
I just want people to be careful with their words. I just want people to be careful with their words. People,
yeah, you're right. Because that almost sounds like a beta man, you know? That's what it almost sounds like. Felt like she describing a beta.
We talk about that beta stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
I felt like we were dancing that line of the criteria that goes into this beta man that some people have.
I like that.